Welcome to the final episode of our GURPS series, everyone. We made it. We all made it. This episode, we dive into some really constructive discussion about the character creation process for GURPS. And we had some nice things to say about it overall, believe it or not.
I know.
So you will not want to miss that. In the meantime, here's what to expect in the call to action after the episode.
Stick around for another Patreon Drive update. We have another patron to thank, as well as a brand new review to read today.
What?
I know.
A review.
We also have some very exciting news about new benefits coming to our Patreon, as well as a brand new $150 goal for the Patreon Drive this month that you won't want to miss, since it includes a reward for all patrons, even at the $1 level.
Everyone?
Every single patron.
Oh my gosh. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
And that's in addition to the sweet new Chessex dice for all of our $5 and up patrons, which we now have in our possession. They are beautiful. Ryan rolled some and they worked. He rolled pretty well even. We'll be going over that and all of the normal episode closer stuff. But for now, enjoy the finale of our GURPS series and my contented and frustrated sighs. Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time, we finished our characters for GURPS, hopefully.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. This episode, we will be discussing the character creation process. We are excited to welcome back Jef and Jon from System Mastery Podcast. Do you want to reintroduce yourselves again for everyone? And please tell us about the characters that you supposedly made in our last episode.
I think that's going to take longer than the introductory phase. But yeah, I'm Jef of the System Mastery Podcast. That's Jon of the System Mastery Podcast over there.
Yeah.
You can find us at systemmasterypodcast.com or System Mastery on all your social medias, wherever we are found. We make a show where we review old and weird role-playing games. Stressing as old and weird as we can find them. We also make a lot of other shows and write books and all kinds of stuff. But mostly, we're those two guys who know every game there's ever been.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that you would prefer did not exist. And that's us.
And for our characters.
Oh, yeah, I guess I don't know how that works. So what we're going to do for that.
All right. So I'll go ahead.
Let's just go right into it.
Yeah, pull that Band-Aid right off.
Okay.
All right. Let's dive into the character that I have made. So I wanted to make a monster. There's a lot of stuff in this book, and GURPS in general doesn't have, like, some games will have like a bestiary, and the things that you fight or whatever are their own separate thing apart from how you make a character. That is not so in GURPS. Everything in GURPS uses the same rules as everything else in GURPS. So I just made a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I initially, the idea for this monster was a thing you wouldn't want to fight because it would be the most annoying thing ever. And so I started out. I have a strength of 18, a dexterity of 12, IQ of 8, and a health of 18. So, you know, big, healthy character. Now, having that, I upped, in addition to the strength characteristic making me hit harder, I put points into doing more damage, because obviously my unarmed attacks are how I'm hitting things. I have 20 hit points, which matters a lot for how many hit points I've got.
Oof.
And I have, let's see, a basic speed of 7, which is great, a move of 10. The big thing is I have a size mod of 3. I am 29 feet tall.
29 feet tall.
I'm 29 feet tall.
Amazing.
Okay,
And
so
I weigh several tons.
Okay.
wow.
Wow. Big monster.
I am a very large monster.
All right.
I am covered in tentacles and eye stalks, and I have a giant toothy mouth. And baby, when I breathe on you, you're going to get afflicted.
Oh, okay. Now
I am a Marlboro.
All right. A
I
morbid.
was figuring you're going to do that. Goodness gracious, why?
Or in the parlance of the game you built him on, a Morbol, because they didn't want to deal with Marlboro.
Oh, I mean, the thing is,
It used to
That's
be a
also in there.
Marlboro.
It is true. Marlboro is also in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
for my advantages,
Amazing.
I have regeneration extreme. I restore 10 hit points every second.
Wow.
Jesus. Okay. So you're very hard to
Every
kill.
round, I get 10 hit points back.
Okay.
I also have damage resist 10, so if you hit me, 10 damage comes right off the top. Know that I upped my damage, and at best, I'm doing 2d6 of damage.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, you won't hurt me, and if you do, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I also have regrowth, so if anything gets chopped off of me, it immediately regrows once my hit points are restored to full.
Oh my God, this is so obnoxious.
I have very fit, which just gives me a +2 to health rolls in case you wanted to do anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have magic resist 10. So any wizard is -10 on a spell to cast to me, and I resist it at a +10 to my roll.
Wow.
Then I have affliction.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I have 6 ranks in it.
Good
And
Lord.
What?
if you get near me, I can breathe on you,
Uh-huh.
and it will stun you, where it means on your turn, you can take no action.
Right.
You have to take the take no action
Mhm.
because this is GURPS and there's a rule for everything.
Yeah. There's an
Wow.
action for when you can't take actions.
Yeah.
Tough
Now-
act and 10 actions.
The roll to resist that, because of the way it works, is you roll health -5. In order to not be stunned anymore, during your turn, you have to roll health -5 to get out of it. So you could just be stun locked and sitting there doing nothing
Jeez.
while I slowly eat you.
Right.
That's horrifying.
This is
And I-
how to ensure the other players never come back to the game.
Oh, yes. I also have 360-degree vision because I have
Of
little
course.
eye stalks and I can see all around me.
Definitely.
It costs me slightly less because they are on eye stalks, so you can actually hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it would matter, because as soon as my hit points go back to full, they regrow.
Wow.
I also have teeth because I have big spiky teeth.
Yeah.
'cause I'm a
Big
monster.
spiky plant teeth.
Mhm.
Disadvantages are great because they assume that you are a person that cares. So I have horrific looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
-6 to reaction rolls. I have bad smell, a -2 to reaction rolls. I have bad temper. So if anyone gets near me, I will aggro on them and immediately attack.
Of course.
I cannot speak.
Shocking everyone, I'm sure.
I have full no speech. I can just roar at people.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I am dead broke. Unfortunately, this monster has no money or job. That's worth 25 points.
That's cool. You still carry a couple of steel pipes, so I can summon the Doom Train GF.
Oh yeah, I'm dead broke, but you can steal some gil off of me. If
Yeah,
you
get a
bug
couple
me.
of gil and some steel pipes, especially if I catch you with a degenerator.
I also cannot learn. So I can't raise my IQ, my dexterity, or any skills past what I have to start with.
Right.
As
Okay.
for skills, I only have 5 of them. I have brawling
Of course.
at a 16, my innate attack, the affliction, at 16, intimidation at 16,
Mm-hmm.
survival, nasty swamp at 15, and wrestling at 16.
Oh, no judo for you.
No, I don't do judo. I'm a big weird plant monster. I wrestle.
Judo's for everyone.
Could do wrestling.
And baby, that's this character. This character is the worst to try and fight.
How many points did you spend, though?
Total 446 points.
Ooh, slightly below my total.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If we fought, it would be the worst thing in the world for you because it would be so annoying.
I don't think I would win.
The whole point of this character is to be like, oh, you allowed me to pick things that make me unkillable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can fly and maybe do some damage. I don't even know if I can do enough damage to kill you.
You can fly outside of the range of my breath. So I just sit there and go,
Yeah, but never die.
Come here, you.
Because no one does enough damage to kill that.
No. That's why you have to get a raid group together and fight me as an 8-man so that you can do enough damage to get around my regen.
Or just at least wait until your limit break.
I'm glad for some reason we're on the same side and
we fight crime.
We fight crime. That's the one saving grace.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you guys got to hang out with him. A big stinky plant monster.
So
I mean,
Jeff,
like that's the thing is that like I hate everything about that, but at least you're on our side.
Yeah. It's better that I'm on your side.
Because I don't want to deal with the 8,000 rounds of combat that would be.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm the tank. I could just get up there and soak up a beating and be like, I don't care. It's fine.
I can stand on your head and look cool.
I'm just going to wrestle you and then wait.
As long as you know you're on our side.
Yeah, my bite does as much damage as a punch, so I just sort of gnaw on people for a while. Whew. There you go. There's my Marlboro.
Very nice. Very nice. Did you want me to go next?
Yes, Jeff, please.
All righty. Hang on just a second. Let me just dig up my character. There we go. All right. I, instead of deciding to make a monster, figured I'd experiment with making an animal. So I made a dog.
Okay.
Just a dog.
Just a regular dog.
A normal dog.
Now, I'm no dog scientist.
Now, I may not be a dog scientist, but if you examine this humble chart, you'll see that this dog is no normal dog. I have made the hobo. And if you're unfamiliar, then that is the main character
of
the TV show The Littlest Hobo, a late 60s into early 80s Canadian TV show about a above average in all ways German shepherd that wandered from town to town solving people's problems for them before moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But every once in a while, the hobo would prove to have skills that elevated him beyond even that of an exceptionally talented normal dog, for he was perhaps Canis superior.
This sounds like the inspiration for Hero Dog Saves Town.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is.
It absolutely was. It's like one of Alex's favorite shows.
Yeah, and Alex is, of course, the official dog correspondent and expert of System Mastery. So whenever we have dog-related queries or issues, we'll have her on to help us. No, she's not a dog scientist.
Amazing.
No.
So I have a strength of 10 because the hobo is not... I mean, he's average in terms of lifting capacity and so on. Nothing special there. A dexterity of 15 because he is quite dodgy and quick. An intelligence of 17 for the hobo perceives and knows all that he requires to. And his knowledge is beyond that of mortal ken. And a health of 15 for the hobo always moves on. It just keeps moving on.
One day, maybe he'll settle down.
Yeah, maybe one day he'll want to settle down. Until tomorrow, however, he'll just keep moving on. That means he's not especially dangerous. His damage is at 1d2 -2 swing and a thrust of 1d. He does, however, there's a couple of bite abilities I took later on that at least give him a credible bite attack against normal people, because that's all the hobo ever really wants to interact with anyway. 25 hit points. Will and perception both elevated to 20. You cannot phase the hobo. The hobo does.
Hobo sees all.
The hobo sees all. The hobo is entirely aware of all crime occurring in a radius anywhere in Canada, and perhaps even some parts of the northern United States. We're not sure. And a will of 20, meaning that the hobo cannot be broken. His spirit will never stop, and he will just keep going. He has an FP or fatigue points of 18, a basic speed of 7.5, and a move of 10. I bought up.
This dog is so much better than me.
I spent a lot of points.
Look, the hobo's better than basically everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be able to take on that Marlboro, but then again, I'm not in Final Fantasy. I'm in Canada.
Yeah. I forgot to say, I managed to give myself 25 points by making me tech level 1 in a tech level 6 setting.
Yep, I did this. I only dropped the hobo's tech level by 1 from 7 to 6.
Well, yeah, you can use machines.
I can. I was very aware of it. Okay. His build is skinny because the build structure is based off being a human, and he only weighs 90 pounds. Despite me assuming that if you're not using human physiology, you instead treat yourself as a human, but you measure your height based on your single longest measurement, which becomes your dominant measurement. So in a dog, you use your horizontal or nose to tip, which I estimated to be about 5 feet or 5 to 6 feet. And at 90 pounds, he still comes out with a skinny build, which makes him easier to knock around and harder to disguise, which is fine because he's a dog. His appearance is average. I considered handsome because he is, of course, a handsome boy, but I decided not to mess around with like interspecies attractiveness ranges. I assume that his value in attractiveness is significantly higher among the dog community. Tech level of 7, which is slightly less than the Canadian local, but he has demonstrated his ability to use all kinds of interesting machines, especially simple machines. There is not a rope that guy can't pull to create a pulley of some kind. Wow. He has a cultural familiarity that he specialized in, which is Canadian humans and road folk of the mid-70s. His wealth is dead broke because he has no money and needs no money, but that's 25 free points.
Hell yeah, it is.
And his reputation is high. I put nearly 15 points into reputation. Specifically, he is well known and well regarded amongst hobos of Canada.
Wow.
Who like him enough to drop everything and help him if the need arises. So let's move into the advantages category. He has a cute taste and smell.
It's very cute.
It's very cute.
So cute.
A cute taste, smell, and hearing, actually, both at 6 points, which gives him a +3 bonus to any skill related to using those senses. He has ally, a social ability that he invested 12 points in, and he went for an allied group instead of a specific ally, having invested the ability to assume that if he calls upon them for assistance, 6 to 10 hobos will help as needed, each of them having 25% of his total build points. They're not especially important, but if he needs some bodies to stand around or distract the police or whatever, hobos will assist. He has animal empathy. This allows him to make a intellect roll or IQ roll to sense the emotional state and immediate plans and interests of animals he encounters. He has animal friend, which in his case I decided is a variable feature. I added a couple of extra points to the cost to make this work. Whenever he encounters an adventure he needs to go on that involves another animal of some kind, he can befriend and guide that animal around without it becoming aggressive or dangerous. He can use this to take, for example, help a trapped bear escape a barn by grabbing it by the leash and leading it out without it fighting him for that. Or encouraging 2 elderly horses to move across the town and into a barn where they will hide and not make noise. He has catfall. This allows him to subtract 10 yards before calculating any falling damage, and he can always roll against his dexterity for half damage on any fall from any height. He has 1 rank of charisma, which increases a number of skills, but the only one that he bothered with is leadership at +1. He has claim to hospitality at 15 points. This one is another variable. Anyone who is in need or has a problem or is generally oppressed in some way is obligated to provide the hobo hospitality if he requests it. Of course, he has to request it non-verbally, but he will be welcomed into their home, fed, and given a new name in every situation that he deems appropriate. If someone is needing to escape a kidnapper or someone's attempting to rob them of their priceless family music box, he will be allowed to live in their house and be renamed Tramp or Bandit or something like that until such time as he chooses to move along. He has charisma. I already mentioned that. I'm sorry, I went down the wrong part of the page.
And then he also has charisma.
I was on the wrong part of the page. He has dog claws. I only invested 3 points, which is the lowest you can in claws, because dog claws aren't especially sharp or retractable or big. They just add +1 damage to any attack he might make with his paws, which I don't think is ever going to come up. I'm just being thorough. Combat reflexes. This gives him +1 to all of his active defense rolls and +1 initiative for everyone on his team.
Ooh,
this is
everyone on the team.
Yeah. Well, I did invest in a little bit of attacking here and there. I gave him a bite attack and so on. It's actually quite rare that the hobo fights. He solves his problems through guile and loyalty and so on rather than combat. So the active defense and so on is much more important to him for him to get away from a fight. Danger sense. This allows him to sense any ambush that might occur, and the GM of the game will make a secret IQ roll against my IQ, which again is a 17, and has to tell me if something bad is about to happen and give me a second to prepare. There's a couple of skills like this in the book that I found a little, the secret IQ skill roll ones. I took another one as well, intuition, but there was one I thought deserves special mention, which is common sense. I don't know if anyone else read that.
No.
Common sense is, if the GM thinks you're about to do something stupid, you are allowed to roll, and they will tell you if the thing you are doing is stupid or not. That's the kind of old game design I always like to call attention to when I see it, because it sucks. It's not up to the GM to tell you that you're doing stupid things. You're playing a game. Mm-hmm. And you especially shouldn't have to invest points in that sort of thing. That's a social, at the table kind of free-flowing discussion thing, not something that should cost you points.
I thought about taking that one, but then I was like, wait a minute. All of the other things I have taken go against every common sense skill that I might have.
That's fair. I find things like that to stand out and kind of just bother me. It's like a loose spring in a mattress or something.
Well, it's something that the GM then has to remember about your character too. And that's
absolutely.
Just so much more work for them to remember who has and doesn't have these kinds of skills.
It also means they can't remind other people.
Yes.
So if someone else is doing something stupid and you want to say something, you got to go, hey, do you have common sense? And if they say no, you're like, cool, keep doing it.
Yep. Extra legs. The assuming baseline in this game is that you have 2 legs, so I needed to purchase an additional 2 in order to dog.
I needed to purchase additional 2.
I gotta purchase a couple legs. I gotta go down to market. Get some legs.
Did you get the disadvantage of less arms?
Yes, don't worry about that. We'll get there.
don't you fret.
There's one for like not being able to walk upright. Just wait.
I have that too.
Just you wait.
This is GURPS, baby.
Yeah, I know how GURPS. Extra legs. You'd think it'd be no advantage. I just purchase it because I'm trying to play a dog character, but technically it does mean that if I suffer leg damage, I do not drop to prone and have to crawl. I can walk easily on 2 legs, and in some cases, easily on 3 legs, and in some cases even on 2. So if I suffer leg damage, I have an out in that I have extra legs. I'm also a slight bit faster. Fit. This just gives me a +1 to any health rolls I have to make. I only took 1 rank in it. Fur. I have 1 point. It makes me more resistant to cold. Simple as that. It's one of those 1 point ones. I forget what they're called. Little minor traits. I just took it because he's a dog. Hard to subdue. My decision was that the hobo can take a beating. We often see the hobo survive things that other people would not. This just gives him a +2 to resist checks that would knock him unconscious otherwise. So things like smoke inhalation, gas, actually being kicked, that kind of thing, falls. He is less likely to go unconscious. Higher purpose. I took 2 ranks. This is a code of honor to help the needy against anyone who is crooked. Technically, it should probably be more specific than just I'm helping people against bad people. But the hobo's code is very specific, and it comes out very strongly in the show. So I figured it was okay to be this smooth or this generic, because I'll explain it more in mid-game. The reason it wants to be specific is because it's just a straight-up +2 to any die roll that pertains to that purpose. So if I'm ever trying to help a needy person against a crooked person, I get a +2, no matter what I'm rolling. Honest face. People are more inclined to trust me. It just adjusts the reaction roll. Innate attack. This is the skill and power I took describing my bite. My bite does 2 dice +2 damage. It is an impaling type of damage, which also doubles it against unarmored targets. So it's quite dangerous. I just don't want to use it. He doesn't usually bite people. Intuition. I mentioned earlier what that does. It's the DM making secret IQ rolls for me whenever I need to make a guess with no information. If I succeed at the IQ roll, I get a strong hint that I am either correct or incorrect. Mind control. So far, I've pretty much just made a dog, but the hobo can control minds. In at least one episode, we see him enter into a stare down with a woman who is supposed to block him from leaving a building, and she stares into his eyes until she meekly looks down and steps aside.
Oh.
Mind control normally is the most expensive thing I would have taken. It would cost 50 points. It is a quick contest of IQ versus target will, and the subject obeys any command I give them until I free them from my command. Keep in mind, my IQ is huge, and most people won't have a will to beat this with. But I reduced it to 25 points by making it a telepathic-only command, so I have to be a psychic to do it, which I am. And I took the puppet limitation. Puppeting means that the person immediately acquires one of my least favorite things in this book by name, slave mentality.
Yep.
Not great. Slave mentality is that you don't have a mind of your own and you operate under the command of someone who's telling you what to do. And that's what it means. But that means that if I use my mind control on somebody, I can't be like, all right, go to the store, buy me a dozen donuts and come back. Instead, I pretty much have to follow them around and control them like a puppet. And they have no initiative of their own. They will not try to accomplish things other than stand there and react to complete commands. But
Amazing.
The hobo doesn't work that way. He does the one or two times you ever see him do this. It is pretty much just he stares at you, you move, he lets you loose and he goes. So 25 points for mind control.
Wow.
Peripheral vision. He's a dog, so he has excellent peripheral vision. He gets +3 to detect anyone who's attempting to shadow him. And people who are trying to attack his flanks suffer a -2. Smooth operator. I forget what this does. I forgot to write it down. It was a talent. I know it was expensive, though. I'm pretty sure it's just a bunch of reaction roll adjustments and so on to make up for how cool you are. Speak with animals. I spent 10 points on this. It normally costs 15. That's because it works on mammals and birds only. He cannot talk to reptiles. He merely knows about them.
I know of reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of lizards.
Teeth, 2 points invested for fangs. It adds a +1 impaling damage when I make impales to any thrust attack. Unaging. The hobo is endless and will never age and always is the exact same dog. They do this by using several hobos over the course of the show so that he is always the exact same character. Unfazable. The hobo cannot be surprised or intimidated in any way. Any attempt to surprise him, ambush him, or intimidate him, he will react as if nothing particularly interesting just happened. This isn't even something you roll for. Instead, you don't. Anytime you would normally make a surprise roll or an intimidation resist or anything like that, you just don't. This is also one I wanted to bring special attention to because it is the only thing in the game I found that mentions how you could potentially lose it. It specifically notes that you have to RP that your character is unintimidated, unimpressed, and unfazed by everything you come across, or the DM is supposed to say, no, you lose this power.
Oh.
Wow. Interesting.
I thought that was worth note because, again, it sucks. That shouldn't work that way. And also, I don't know how you do it other than saying like my dog character who cannot be surprised is genuinely surprised. Because to me, it reads like if you act surprised, your character loses the power.
Yeah.
Which bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's wild.
I just thought I'd bring that up because, again, it's a singular thing I found in the book. I always do that when I can. Disadvantages. A lot of these are going to sound like advantages. A lot of them are quirks. One is attentive. The character likes to pay attention to things. He's always paying attention to what's going on around him. This could potentially apply a small penalty to his ability to accomplish something. It doesn't specify. Charitable. The hobo must always offer assistance to those in need. This is a 15-point disadvantage to just help people.
Wow.
Yeah, the disadvantages in here are wild.
Yes. Curious. I have to make a self-control roll not to investigate interesting things.
That makes sense for a dog. Honestly.
Exactly.
That is.
I got to go sniff that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Colorblind.
Yeah.
It says specifically that you're supposed to be fully colorblind and can't make out any color at all. I found this interesting because that's not 99% of colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
No, most people are red-green colorblind. I believe dogs can see blue and yellow.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And they don't have any mechanic there's no like, or you could take this at red, green, or you could take this at blue, yellow, or whatever. It's just a -10 penalty, and you see the world in black and white, which is weird. It's like they just didn't understand what colorblindness is. But I took it and didn't adjust it because they didn't bother, and I figured blue, yellow versus black and white isn't really that big of a difference given someone who's so smell and hearing dependent anyway.
Yes.
Congenial. I'm just generally nice, even in situations where you wouldn't expect it. -1. Distinctive features. It's a long-held understanding that the hobo is a brindled German shepherd, a kind that is not common and, in fact, were unique to the breeder who supplied dogs for the show. So he is easily recognizable. Duty -10 for always needing to help those in need he encounters.
It's
Enemy.
You could have charitable and duty help people.
It doesn't say you can't.
Yeah.
It's his duty to help people in need. Also, he wants to. Enemies, 5 points invested in the counter hobo, a dangerous wolf who wants to seed dissent among the humans and drive them apart from each other. But he's not super dangerous because he can be easily defeated by the hobo himself. And where the hobo is ageless, the counter hobo is racked with disease and will not live long.
Wild.
Horizontal. 10-point benefit because he's a dog. He's not upright. He's horizontal.
Oh, boy.
Illiterate. 10-point bonus. He's a dog.
Yeah.
Mute. 25-point bonus. He's a dog. This doesn't stop him from making... No, he can. He can still make guttural utterances and so on. He simply cannot talk.
Wow.
No fine manipulators. The dog has no hands. This is not the same thing as no manipulators. If you make no manipulators, your character is essentially a box with no way to interact with the outside world at all. No fine manipulators means no opposable thumbs. He can still grab things with his teeth and move things with his head and so on, just like he does on the show. But for the purposes of it's not like he can dial a phone, although I believe he does do that on more than one occasion.
Yeah. He just can't grab stuff. No opposable thumbs or anything.
Right. Exactly. Nosy. He's always sticking his nose into other people's business. This one's just straight up true. And
literally
Trickster.
And metaphorically.
Trickster is a 15-point bonus in exchange for I have to trick and mess with dangerous foes. And if I want to not, I need to make a self-control roll to avoid it. This just relates to the fact that the hobo is way more likely to outwit someone and trick them into a garage and then slam the garage door on them somehow than he is to get into a straight up fight. All right. And unlike our Marlboro friend who wisely only had 5 skills, I'm going to go down the list here of every skill and just tell you what it does and what rank it or what the roll for it is without penalties.
Okay.
Acting. It's an IQ roll under 18. Animal handling. It's an IQ roll under 18. Body language. It's a perception roll under 18. He uses that one to read the body language of humans. Dogs are all, of course, incredibly good at it, and he can use it a little bit himself, although there's another skill for that. Body senses. Dexterity roll under 15. Climbing, dexterity roll under 15. Diplomacy, IQ roll under 18. He is an expert at brokering peace, even between a deaf kid and a mime. Disguise, IQ 18. He is quite good at dressing his other dogs. Electronics operation, IQ roll under 18. We've seen him both turn on the sound systems at arcades and erase VHS tapes with incriminating dog evidence on them.
He started up the music and the lights in a discotheque.
Escape, dexterity, roll under 15. Filch, dexterity, roll under 15. I didn't want pickpocket, but he does often pick stuff up when it's unattended and run away with it. I figured that was closer to Filch. Flying leap, IQ 18. This is his ability to jump crazy distances. I like that it rolls off IQ, but he just has a higher IQ than dexterity. So take that, game. Way to work the martial arts skills in there.
Wow.
Forced entry, which is breaking and entering. Dexterity 15. Gesture, IQ 22. This is the one he's best at. Conveying meaning through dogged behaviors. He has to be able to pull off that lassie. What do you mean, boy? Someone's trapped in a well? So even in a penalty situation, he's still quite good at it. Hiking, health, 14. Hypnotism, IQ, 18. Innate attack, dexterity, 15. Leadership, IQ, 20. Observation, perception, 19. Running, Dexterity, 15. Scrounging, perception, 20. Shadowing, IQ, 18. Stealth, dexterity, 15. Suggest. He can convey suggestions to people somehow. This happens on the show a lot. You'll see him run past a hobo and they'll be like, we should go with that dog. Someone might be in trouble. Urban survival, perception, 19. Weather sense, IQ, 19. The dog can easily sense impending changes in the weather and make appropriate decisions based on that.
I'm sorry, did you have parachuting in there? Because I think you should.
I should. I didn't see parachuting was a skill.
It is.
Okay, well then.
This is GURPS.
I'm going to assume parachuting works off probably dexterity.
Yep, it's an easy dex.
And was it hard or very hard?
Easy.
Easy? Oh, sweet. Then I'm going to take it at +1 and increase my character's skill points from 220 to 222.
Great.
There you go. So only 220 points to make the hobo the king among dogs.
Yeah, those disadvantages really helped you out there.
Yeah, making a dog was great because it doesn't, I mean, ultimately I am not an amazing GURPS character. I have one attack. It's a bite. I'm not going to be especially useful in combat, but in a lot of other situations, this character will be very helpful. He's quite good.
If you're trying to win a contest or something, then great.
Yeah, he's great at that
for you.
Yeah, so so not an amazing combatant, but then again, I didn't want to make a combatant. I wanted to make the hobo. But you're absolutely right.
When we've got the Marlboro on.
Yeah. Just the fact that I'm not upright gave me 25 points. And he's just a dog.
Wow.
I mean, it's 22 points when you count that he had to spend an extra 3 points to buy his front legs.
Yeah.
Buy some legs.
So,
but did
so
you
that's
get extra
hobo.
points for not having arms too?
That's no fine manipulators. I gave up his front arms in exchange for with the no fine manipulator ability, which was at -25.
Yeah, so you got a lot of points for being a
47.
dog.
Yeah, 47 points for being a dog.
Wild.
Ryan.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us what you did?
I made a magical girl. Yeah, surprising. Annabelle Torrent.
Shocked.
Is her name. A college-age magical girl that transforms into the magical girl known as Angelique. I don't know, because she's kind of angelic. Because she's got angel wings. So, gosh, I don't know where to start. I spent 499 points. It went up a little bit as people were talking because I realized I didn't do some things in the character creation because how can you keep track of everything?
Yeah, it's not easy.
I was like, oh yeah, you have hit points. And apparently you can spend points to have more hit points.
Everything has
You can spend points to do pretty much,
anything that a character has, there's a dial on it for points.
It's true. So I'm right under the limit of 500 points at 499.
Ooh.
Yeah. So my strength, dex, and my HT, what is that again?
Health.
Yep. Okay, yes. And my health are all 7 as my normal character, my normal college age character.
You're awful.
Wow. But IQ of 12. However, when I transform, I gain 8 points of strength, 6 points of dex, 8 points of health, and 4 extra hit points or something like that, or 8 extra hit points, something like that.
Some extra hit points.
Some kind of points.
I've got extra hit points.
Some kind of hit points.
Probably.
I'm at 18 hit points. I'm at 18 hit points when I'm a magical girl and 9 hit points when I'm not. All right. I'm also a build of 7 apparently because it's based off your strength.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I'm a good low 5 feet, like probably 5'2", 5'3", give or take. And average weight doesn't matter. And then there's all this other stuff that I didn't do, but that's okay. I'm average on most of the rest of it. But 428 points went into being able to shapeshift into magical girl form, which I had to create a magical girl race template for.
Mm-hmm.
as you do.
As you do.
Before I get to that, Annabelle is also clueless, which gave her an extra 15 points. She needs extra sleep. She needs 2 hours of extra sleep a night because she's a college student and
she's got a health of 7.
I know, a health of 7. It's really bad. That gave her an extra 4 points. She's a klutz because anime, and she's also selfless. So that also gave her another 5 points. But when she transforms, she gains, she's got a secret identity, of course, when she transforms. And if that ever comes out, the bad guys will imprison her normal identity and herself. They'll work, instead of trying to stop her and kill her from stopping their plans, they will just try to straight up imprison civilian form Annabelle. For advantages, she's got luck. Once per hour, I get to reroll something. Once per hour of like actual playtime, which I found really fascinating. Like the higher levels are once per half hour, once per 15 minutes of actual gameplay time.
Luck in this game is based on real out of game time spent is so wild because you're like, oh, if I have the luck skill, I'm incentivized to waste time so that I can get my luck back.
Yep. Can we take a bio break? Oh, and I'm going to make you some food. Let me make you some of those sandwiches you like. Oh, it's going to take a while.
I got to talk to this NPC for a while.
Yeah, my phone is ringing. I should answer that real quick. Maybe I should just check in with my mom. I haven't talked to her in a while.
Can you guys just hold on for, let's say, 12 more minutes? No reason.
Before I make that roll, let me filibuster for a while.
It's wild.
If I may quote Diocletian in the original Latin.
So I've got that. I've got Catfall, which we described already. I've got 5 levels of charisma, combat reflexes. I don't know what half of these do, so I'm just going to name them off, and they cost points. Daredevil. I get bonuses if I do things in a cool way.
And you're very Catholic.
Yeah. Destiny. I've got a great destiny. That 15 points worth of destiny that the GM gets to do something with. That's all I got to choose.
Yeah, you don't get to choose what the destiny is. That's the GM's job.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that one boils down to technically immortality until such time as your destiny is accomplished.
But because the GM decides what it is, they're like, oh, your destiny was to die to this guy.
But it's a great positive destiny. You could also do
everyone
a
talks about you afterwards
too, right? I guess that's true.
You looked really cool when you exploded.
It's fair. You get a fashion sense advantage, so you're more fashionable, I guess.
Oh.
So that's the extra cool outfit that you get, right? Winged flight, so it's less expensive than regular flight. You get flight, but you have wings as well. So I picture it as like the, quintessential angelic wings, not biblically accurate.
7 wings.
I know.
So many eyes and rings.
I know. Hard to kill, 5 levels of hard to kill. 2 levels of innate attack, a passive racial memory. So like of all the previous magical girls that held this magical transformation thing, I innately know at times stuff from their past, basically. So like the GM will roll if I know something based on what my past lives that held this power knew.
You can go into the magical girl mind palace.
Right. I've got regeneration, regular regeneration, which also gave me the rapid healing advantage. And that just lets me like 1 hit point per hour I regain back at that point. Yeah. I've got a rapier wit, which lets me quip during combat to stun my opponents,
Ooh.
which is fantastic. I've got 1 level of serendipity, which I forget what that does. But it sounded cool.
Yeah.
She's also versatile. Voice. I don't know what that does, but
You got a
maybe
good voice.
that's like a good sating voice or something, or a good talking voice. I don't know.
Just gives you a +2 to all the speaking skills,
Right.
basically.
And then I also took zeroed, which means that in magical girl form, you do not exist as a person throughout history.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. So like there's no records of this magical girl just ever being like, nobody knows who this person is.
My magical girl is off the grid.
Yeah. Of course, being a magical girl came with enemies. So this is a universe ending level threat that is threatening everybody, including us, I guess, apparently. So sorry to all of you.
No.
But we don't know who it is. We just know there is a threat, and this threat keeps sending stuff towards us. And that gave me 45 points. So I had to kind of take that. I also have a trademark, which is just a simple little thing that I leave behind to kind of know that, hey, Angelique was here. And she's also beautiful in this form.
All right.
So hit most of the tropes. And it's worth noting that her innate ranged attack is using fatigue. It fatigues them. It's a non-lethal attack that will kind of drain their energy levels and stuff. So that way our Marlboro can eat them better. I don't know. We've got an interesting dichotomy. I've got also a bunch of skills because of course it's GURPS. So she's an artist. She has to roll under 12. Bicycling, rolling under 7 or 13, depending on if she's transformed or not. Which hilarious winged like magical girl goddess on a bicycle.
You
Just
got to get an angel
fun.
on a Huffy sometimes.
I know, right? I've got Captivate and Dreaming +4, which is 4 higher than whatever my will is, which I didn't calculate because I didn't figure out how to.
That's fine.
It's fine. She has Flight, which lets her fly more effectively. 12 roll under in normal form. She's got Flight +5, which gives her a 20 to roll under with her transform form. She's good at Candy Crush games. Candy Crush. Roll under for 12. Innate attack +3, so it's 10/16. Karate +3, 10/16. She's good with makeup, so that's 14. Parrying missile weapons, she's good at +3. So that's 10/16. Her performance is +2, so rolling under 14. Poetry by itself, just a 12, since I have an IQ of 12. Public speaking +2, so that's a 14. Stage combat, which I love. She could pretend to fight. That's at a +3. So that's a 10/16. Strategy +2, so that's 14. Tactics +3, that's 15. And then typing is a 7 and 13. And then finally, writing +1, 13. That's Annabelle Torrent, aka Angelique, the magical girl.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amelia, I'm very
magical
curious.
girl.
Yeah. I'm very curious what sort of necromancer you're bringing to the board.
Well, I decided that the way I wanted to do it was to actually use a point buy system. And I wanted to select the least amount of points possible. So I said, what thing will require me to do the least amount of work? And I was informed that roughly 100 is a normal, average, regular person. So I thought, I'll make me. So now I present to you Amelia Antrim, my character.
So a necromancer.
Maybe. I started with the disadvantages because, as everybody knows, that's where I like to make my characters. That's where
you live.
Mm-hmm. That's where I live. And so I thought, what disadvantages do I have? Well, everyone in GURPS, they have manic depressive, which obviously, being a 1980s role-playing game originally, is in fact very accurate to the experience of a bipolar person.
Obviously.
So I get to roll to see whether I'm manic or depressive at the beginning of each session.
Oh, boy.
And then depending on which of those episodes I'm in, I gain different disadvantages, which I totaled up, by the way. And if I just bought those things, they were in fact worth more points than just being manic depressive, but that's fine.
But then you'd have to deal with all of them at the same time. Then you'd be manic and depressive.
But here's the thing about most of these is that they operate on your self-control. Because as we all know, that's how mental illnesses work. And so you set a number as your self-control number. And then you have to roll that to see if you are able to control some of these things, whether you give in to them or not. And you can increase or decrease the cost or like the points of these disadvantages, depending on whether you want them to be something that you really, really struggle with or that you like only kind of struggle with. That involved more math. So I said, no, thank you. And I just went with the base 12 for all of them. So yeah, I do, in fact, at the beginning of every session, roll to find out whether I am manic or depressive. If I am in a depressive episode, I have the disadvantage of chronic depression, which means I can't do anything. The default is doing nothing at all. So I get to roll and see if I exist. Otherwise, I am, what did they say? Overconfident, I think, and overworked.
And workaholic, I think.
Workaholic, that's right. Overconfidence and workaholic are the other two that you would get if you were manic. I also took insomniac because I have insomnia. I took indecisive because that's one of the things that my ADHD gives me. I took impulsive, also a gift from my ADHD and my mania. I took enumerate just because that's me as a person, and never have I been more certain of that than trying to make a GURPS character. I also took klutz. Some of our listeners may remember that like 2 years ago, I tripped on my dog, fell down the stairs, broke 2 fingers, had to get pins in my hand. So I'm just really good at that kind of stuff. My dog is fine. She's great.
Okay, good.
She's great. Dog is fine. Dog is fine. Yeah, we can forget about the surprise surgery and pins and occupational therapy and everything that I had to do. The dog is fine.
Can I see the dog?
In a little bit.
I would like to see the baby.
I am also a light sleeper. I took the quirks of distractible, because my ADHD, dreamer, which is not like, oh, I have big dreams. It's that like you spend more time thinking of how to solve the problem than you do actually solving the problem. And I wouldn't know anything about that.
It's that I'm a radical dreamer.
Right. Right. I also took habits or expressions because all of my mental illnesses together do mean that I need to stay on very particular routines, and I like things just so. And I figured that can fall under that. For my advantages, I took acute taste and smell because I really can taste and smell things. It's
weird.
Nobody else can smell them, but I can. Did you take that for your dog? I
did. I took advanced taste and smell and advanced hearing.
Okay.
For the hobo.
We got something in common.
I think I put them at 3 ranks each.
I think I only took one or two. Maybe. I don't remember.
That makes sense. He is a super taster, so.
Right. Yeah, I took charisma because I generally am fairly charismatic most of the time.
All right.
I took empathy at the 15 because I think it was like a 5 for sensitive or empathy was 15, and I took it at 15 because I'm one of those people that can feel all the feelings of everyone in the room with me. I don't think it's an advantage. Intuition. I have fantastic pattern recognition and feelings about things, and I'm almost always right.
Absolutely.
I also took temperature tolerance because I'm from the Midwest. I can withstand greater swings of temperature, like the fact that it is like 40 something out right now. But yesterday I got a horrible sunburn because it was 80 something.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I should say that my starting like attributes, strength, dexterity, all that. I increased my IQ to 12. Everything else I left it at 10 because that's where it started, and that was what an average person was.
Very, very fair.
Then for skills, I did administration at a +3 because that's what I do. I'm a regulatory coordinator. Current affairs and diplomacy and politics, all because I have a degree in political science. I took research because I work in oncology research.
Mm-hmm.
Psychology. Look, I have a lot of disorders and 2 special needs children. I know a lot of psychology by accident. So I only took a +1 on that. I also took pharmacy because, again, I work in oncology research. And let's see, I took observation at a +3 because I am observant. And I took games at a +5. And my game, everyone, is Legend of the Five Rings.
Ooh.
So
The RPG or the card game? I think you got to choose.
No, the RPG. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm familiar with like the story and lore and all of that, but I did not actually ever play the card game.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's me, which was how little work can I put in and still make a character.
And how many points was that total?
100.
Wow, right in the dot.
Nice.
The minimum to meet the requirements. We got both ends of the spectrum here. That's great.
Yeah, we got Ryan is almost 500, and then I did 100. Yeah.
See, whereas I think I put in about the same amount of effort to my 400 some odd point character, but that's because I was spending like 150 points at a time on one thing.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that like, you know, you put in, this is 25, this is 74 points, this is, you know, and I definitely thought about going that way. But then that also involved knowing more of what other skills did rather than scrolling down the skill list and being like, that's a skill I have.
I know what that means.
Like I could easily jack up the hobo from 220 to like 300 points just by going through and adding ranks to a bunch of things. But I was trying to stay true to the relatively gentle flow of the show on which he lived. So I think, you know, ultimately it did make the character I was looking for. But at 220 is like right around the high end of recommended starting.
Yeah. I mean, 200 to 250 is basically a regular starting character in GURPS. So the hobo is right there at a standard protagonist level.
Yeah. And so like in mine, I think I very easily could have spent 200 points if I had put anything into increasing any of those attributes other than like the 40 points that I put in to my IQ.
Amazing. Well, it just goes to show like you can make anything in GURPS.
It really, it truly is universal.
Honestly, like this was a really interesting exercise going through this. I cannot wait for the fan fiction to figure out how this all fits together.
How does this go together? Oh no!
Oh no! Amelia got isekai'd.
How are we a group of anything?
I feel like I would certainly let the littlest hobo come hang out in my house.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And
well,
you'd have to Malboro.
Like we are fine. Jeff and I are normal.
And the 29-foot, several ton Malboro that also hangs out nearby.
It smells really bad.
It's
probably eats your garbage.
This is a very large raccoon. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Fine. Pay no heed to that thing.
It's fine. It's fine. Well, before we get to the fanfic, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process, as if we have not heard enough of it already. We like to talk about how it relates to the system, to other games. You two have been on our show too many times now, so we're running out of our basic generic boring questions like how did you get into role-playing games, and
we're going to get weird questions?
Why do you like superheroes and stuff? So after our last series with you, we covered Marvel superheroes, which was also awful. And we discovered there's actually still a really loyal following for that original game from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
In all of the games that you've covered on your show, has there been one that stood out to you as like still beloved and still played unironically?
Yes.
All these years later.
Yes. One that we didn't expect specifically, as opposed to kind of going in knowing.
Right.
Yeah. We got in a lot of internet hot water.
Ooh,
maybe 4 or 5 years ago now for the game. I forget. I think it was Stormbringer, not Elric, right? So Stormbringer, which is a game based. It was the. I think it's the one made by Games Workshop, because there's a lot of companies.
No, they're all Chaosium.
Oh, I thought one of them was Games Workshop, but maybe not that one. Maybe we did the Chaosium one. But anyway, I think Elric with an exclamation point is the Games Workshop one. Anyway, so Stormbreaker is based on the Elric of Melnibone stuff by Michael Moorcock. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That particular bit of fiction. We had never read any of it. Neither one of us had ever read any Elric books.
Oh boy.
And so what we do when we do those is we go in saying, okay, we're going to read a role-playing game based on a fiction series, and we're going to see what the role-playing game tells us about the fiction series and how the role-playing game leaves us feeling about the prospects of that fiction series. And what we've noticed is that there's kind of an inverse relationship between how big of a super fan you are of a series when you decide to write a role-playing game and how good that game is going to be. Like, if you go in being the world's biggest Elric fan, you are going to write the worst game in the world. Because
you want it to be canonical.
Yes.
You like it too much.
You like it too much. And so you start your game. Every game is like, you can be good, but you can't be Elric. Here's another short story about Elric. Elric is great. Elric has plus 800 to everything, but you have to pity him because he's a weak little boy who can't accomplish anything, except that all the gods owe him infinity favors.
Yeah. When you get information where it's like, what's Elric? Oh, he's basically a weak little waif boy, and he's so sad and tired, but then he takes super drugs and becomes the best fighter that's ever existed, and also every god loves him, and if he falls in the water, then the god of water will come down and save him because he's a special boy.
Yes.
He's daddy's favorite boy.
He also always carries a sword and never goes anywhere without it, that jacks all of his stats up from what are supposed to be invalid, but are actually way above the average for anyone else that you can possibly build in the game, to even bigger than that. In a game that's percentile based, he has a plus 800% chance to hit.
Wow.
And so we read through it. We were like, this sounds awful. This character sounds like a disingenuous twerp who sounds like he's constantly self-pitying, but is actually an unstoppable god machine. I don't want to read any of this. And what we mostly learned was, there's a lot of Moorcock fans who were mad at us because we were like, Moorcock's work sounds stupid, which we never said. We said, this game makes Elric look awful.
Right. If this is my only exposure to this,
Yes.
0 stars.
Yeah, exactly.
You have not done a good job of selling me on this property.
Meanwhile, there is also a huge fan base for that game. So much so that it's actually one of the more valuable games we've reviewed.
Yeah.
It's worth like $100.
Oh, wow.
And so a lot of people were mad at us for just owning a copy despite being Philistines who hate it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like, we have this expensive, crazy RPG. We hate it, and it's going to sit on a shelf. And everyone's like, I hate you. Give me that.
So whole forums sprung up all over like Reddit and RPG site and places like that, dedicated just to being mad at us for making a terrible review. And I maintain that we didn't. We stuck to our principles. We chose to review
what was in front of you.
A book that was in front of us and how it made us feel about the characters contained in that book. We have no idea what the actual books are like. And this has happened to us more than once, because it also happened to a much less severe extent with Amber Diceless, based on the Amber series by Roger Zelazny, which again is written by an ultimate super fan of Zelazny. So he didn't stop to go like, well, is this game fun, or is it just me waxing rhapsodic about how much I like the contents of the books I've read?
So do you think the problem there is people trying to be too loyal to the source material so that there's not room for, because like the point of a role-playing game is that like I can be in that world, I can make decisions that, you know, influence and are influenced by the lore of that story. And I could see somebody coming into it as a super fan and being like, well, no, like he's already written over here that if you did this, that you could, you know, like, and it just kind of ruining that. Is that
we always tell people,
like what the problem is?
What we tell people going into our show is don't listen to your favorite book. If you look through our list of episodes and you see your favorite role-playing game, don't listen to that. That's not what you should start with, because you're going to disagree with us and you're going to decide that we must hate everything completely and be stupid.
And the thing with the games based on a property that someone loves way too much is you get that whole, not only do you have like this absolute slavish need to have the lore be what it is, and players can't mess with that. So no matter what timeline you play in, you aren't allowed to play with the toys of the setting. But also that whole like, oh, you'll never be as good as the main characters. If you're playing in the Firefly RPG, you can't be as good as anyone on the Firefly crew. Yeah. Like all of the RPGs based on properties where someone loves it too much, they're like, no, this is great and you can't be as good. Yeah. You are merely there to look at the cool things that are around you.
Don't mess with them. Like another great example has always been in West End Games Star Wars, which I would maintain has the bones of a good RPG, but has way too much anti-fun stuff layered all over it. It does that hero worship thing of the main characters from Star Wars to an extent that doesn't even make sense. Like it's a game that's dice based. You get a number of dice. So for example, an average character who's with a melee attack may have 4 dice with sword or whatever. They give Han Solo, noted smuggler, 8 dice plus some extra random bonus points in negotiate. And I don't know if maybe you want to search back and remember all your memories of Star Wars. He is a terrible negotiator. In fact, he is a comedy relief bad negotiator. That's why he has to shoot that radio in the Death Star, because he says the stupidest things possible to the guy on the other end of the line. Yeah. So really, they should give him like 2 dice and make the joke. You know, they should be like, oh yeah, it's a boring conversation anyway. He has 2 dice. There you go. It's fine. Right. But instead, he's got to be better than you could possibly be as a player. So he just has 8 dice, more than a player could ever get. Yeah. And you'll see that a lot in games. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, when we covered the One Ring role-playing game, that was a thing that I really enjoyed about it, is that it very much was not that way, that it was like, you can build, you do you. Yeah, like, have if you fun. Want a swirly Aragorn, you go for it. Right? Yeah, like it's one of my favorite things about the Sentinels RPG is that all of the NPCs from the card game are statted out in the back of the book, and they're statted out as starting characters. None of them have any special points or anything. Right. Well, because nobody wants to be a side character in their own campaign. That's what NPCs are for. Yeah. And even if they are canonical NPCs, they are NPCs. Yes. And so, like, I should be able to build a character that is cool and interesting and exciting. And, like, I am the main character in my own film, even if I am not part of the original trilogy. Yeah. You know? The way I feel about Sentinels is that they did exactly right by saying, hey, we have our local equivalent to Superman is a guy named Legacy. And he has lots and lots of powers because every generation gets the powers of all the previous generations plus one new one. And it's a fun origin story for them. And you think, oh, he's got lots and lots of powers. He's probably going to be really hard to replicate in this engine. Nope. They built him like a starting character, same as everybody else. They even built his daughter, who is just him with 1 extra power, by making a standard character with the same points as everybody else. And the thing it tells me is that they knew that playing this game, you would want to play your favorite heroes, or people just like them from the game from the thing you read. If you buy Star Wars, you don't want to play as a chump who is almost Luke Skywalker. Right. You want to play Luke Skywalker. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, yeah. There you go. Absolutely. Well, in a similar vein, was there a game that you had covered that stands out to you as one where you expected it to be bad or problematic, but it turned out it was actually really a solid game? Do you want to do Dallas for this one?
I mean, we already talked about Dallas.
That's true. It's just it was such a shocking example.
Yeah. You touched on it. You hinted at it, but please give us the full details.
So Dallas as a game sort of marries three different things together in that it's basically like the Venn diagram overlap of a board game, a like murder mystery dinner, and a LARP.
Ooh.
And in the center is Dallas. And so everyone at the table gets handed one of the characters from the show. So there's no character creation. You just are one of these characters. But everyone has a thing they are trying to accomplish that is unique to that character. But everything you're trying to accomplish requires you to be in control of certain things in the narrative. So it might be like the deed to a plot of land, or us like the governor, or some farmhand, or whatever it is.
Tickets to the Cowboys game.
So you have to control X amount of these various things that you are given. So it'll be like, as long as you control, 4 out of these 6 things, then at the end of the game, you are considered fulfilling your goal. But all of these things also overlap with other things that other people want. So you're like, oh, I'm trying to accomplish my goal and I need the deed to this plot of land. You're trying to do something completely separate from what I'm trying to do, but you also want the deed. So that's
my kind of game though.
Yeah, you're making these like backroom deals with other people, because there's occasionally a thing where it'd be like, oh, well, I'm married to this character, so if they control it, it counts as me controlling it. So I'll try and support them when they go get it. And then I'll talk to like some other person and go, look, I know you're trying to get this thing and I'll help you get that as long as you make sure I get this. And so there's all this scheming, which was the whole point of Dallas, was this, super schemy soap opera. And so the whole like mechanics reinforcing theme works so well.
Yeah.
And it's this game from like 1980.
Made by a war game company that had mostly focused on historical tabletop skirmish war games up until that point.
That's so surprising.
Yeah, it's like if someone that made Napoleonic minis came out and was like, we did Dread. And you're like, how? Why? What?
That's so cool.
Like, it's not perfect, but we expected a disaster. And what we got was a deeply playable game.
That's so cool.
That's
I want
really
to play that game now.
Because
that's my kind of I would say like that's actually the part of L5R that I like, is like that scheming, diplomatic, like, social part of it.
And it's this asymmetrical thing, because if you're J.R. Ewing, you have all the power. You have all the things going for you. And if you're like, I'm the granddaughter and I've got nothing, then you've got to spend your time being like, I need to make deals because I can't accomplish what I'm doing on my own. But also, if you're JR, everyone is gunning for you. So you're like, yeah, I've got a bunch of power, but everyone is against me and they all hate me because I have that much power.
Wow.
So it's just this super interesting dynamic that happens. And
that's so cool.
I love it way more than I thought I would.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We really enjoyed it. We were like, I can't recommend this enough, which is a shame because they only ever printed like X number of thousands of copies. I think it's 80,000 copies that exist at all. Ooh. And they're not easy to find.
Somebody scanned that in online already.
Plus all of the things in there are like, oh, you have a book for the characters, but they're all like perforated to tear out sheets you would hand to people. Yeah. So any copy you find will almost certainly be missing like some of the characters, some of the little like bits that you need to do whatever.
So we lucked out. Our copy is not only all the perforated bits are untorn inside of it, but everything was still there, and they had added stuff. Like there was an old card from an old 1980 edition of Candyland in there.
Oh, wow.
We don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, we ended up with a near pristine edition, even though it had clearly been opened.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So every once in a while, you come across a gem when you're digging through these weird minds that we do.
Well, I mean, the laws of probability state that at some point something has to be good, right?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and also I think if everything were terrible, you guys wouldn't still be doing this at this point. Although I've noticed that you're being a little kinder to yourselves these days and sometimes doing games that you like.
Yeah, I think we don't want to be seen as just hateful. Like that's not something that's interesting to us. We try to just find weird games and talk about them, and a lot of them are bad because that's what a lot of game design has been for the past 30 years, 40 years. Yeah. But we like it when we find something good.
Let's talk about these character sheets, because we talk about like layout and things like that, and what is that? You know, we like to say, when you look at this character sheet, because it's really the first window anybody has into a game is character creation, and then character sheets being the first part of that. What does this tell us about like what this game is going to be like? What kind of things are going to be important? That kind of stuff. I mean,
right off the bat, when you look at it and you see it's got like, oh, here's the full like encumbrance chart and the multiplication values, and then like basic move times 0.08 for light encumbrance. And you're like, oh, I get it. This is a math game.
Yeah.
Okay.
My eye was immediately drawn to, I didn't use the character sheet to create my character because it's not form fillable, but my eye is immediately drawn to that encumbrance box, like right away. I see times decimal, and I'm like, ooh, oh boy.
Yeah, see for me, it was the blank spaces. It was the fact that like the bottom, like 2/3 of this page is just lines, blank lines.
Yeah,
there's not enough of a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, because and notably, I made a starting regular grade character, and I don't believe the advantages and disadvantages lists I created would fit on this page.
Yeah.
That's great. That's added here.
You went all in.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, this is definitely a character sheet that I'm like, this feels like it would work back in the old edition.
Sure.
Because like on the skills section, if I write down like 10 or 15 skills in here and take up some room doing that, that's fine. But there are now with 275 skills and each one having like, oh, it defaults to whatever. It just, there's so much stuff that you need to remember, and it like there's no possible way you can write it down. It just means you always have to have a book open whenever you're doing anything.
Right. Yeah. This is one of those games like where even as I originally was just filling it out on my iPad, like writing in my stuff, and I was making little notations of like the page numbers that skills were on, because it was like, I'm going to need to go back and look at that and see, you know, how many points did I spend there, and you know, like the level and then the relative level and the, you know.
At least the skills and the abilities are all in alphabetical order.
That is true.
True.
It's easy enough to find them.
I mean, this is a classic old school character sheet is what I see when I look at this. It looks like it was built in Excel.
And even then it's like, it's a lot of blank.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing I see. I'm going to have to write down a lot of individual things, and I have no idea what they're going to do without the book. So it's.
Yeah.
Man, I'm looking at some of the filled in ones they have for
in the book. They have so much stuff written down, and like as I was making mine, I was like, "Am I not doing enough here?"
Well, there's like, I mean, especially for the like professor that's a like the Cthulhu Mythos guy, he has at least like 36 skills on here, and they had to make the writing so tiny to get all of this in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get another page, my man. You lost the battle.
Oh my gosh.
Because they took away the lines in the actual like thing. They made the sizes variable, so you can't even create these characters on the sheets that they give you.
Yeah, the fact that it is just completely open blank on the normal character sheet means you can get into such a big amount of trouble of like, oh, I'm just going to start writing stuff in there, and that, you know, that thing when you're making a sign and you realize you made the first letters a little too big, and then you have to kind of like narrow it down as it goes. That's the way I feel like making a character sheet for this would go, is you're like, oh, I've got acrobatics and I'm going to write that in. Then I go, oh no, I put too much stuff. Now I got to start writing everything real tiny.
Yeah, this guy's got way too much going on. Look at that. He's a pipe smoker. That's a 0-point addiction to tobacco.
Wow.
He even had room to write down a lot of stuff that doesn't do anything. He makes decisions by consulting the tarot. He has distrust Germans. He gets a -1 reaction from touchy Germans, but none of these have any point value, positive or negative. It's just stuff about the character. Wow, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah,
There's
when
so
you scroll
much.
down to like 2 more to Sora, like I think those ones are even smaller. There's
Yeah.
more skills there.
There are
Because the
more
professor,
skills.
without his ritual stuff, has 27 skills.
Oh my gosh, look at all that.
But
That's
she
'cause she
doesn't have
has all those
spells or
martial
she got
arts things.
techniques. But like,
Yeah.
they're so tiny.
Wow.
You got to get so
Wow.
tiny. Plus,
Yeah.
when you look at it and you're like, oh, each of these on the character sheet have little like asterisk and plus sign notations to be like, oh, I have a 17 in this skill. And then you have to look at the notation and go to a footnote that says this includes a +1 for perfect balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I should have to write
Even-
that on my character sheet.
when your character sheet needs footnotes, your game is too complicated.
I think it's
Right.
worth noting, by the way, that all of these characters have their point value listed in the character builder. And that
Oh, yeah.
professor whose thing is entirely filled up, he's a 200-point character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the lowest point value of all of them. There's one you can build whose name is C31RO7, who is a 1,665-point character.
Yeah, he's a robot.
Wow.
He's a giant murder bot. So
His height is 7'8" and he weighs 121 tons.
yeah, he's a giant murder robot.
But he's only 7'8".
yeah, but he's very dense. Also, he's
So
wide. He's got
puts
4
the
legs.
heavy- and heavy
If
metals.
that was the case, he'd be measured by his longest single attribute. I read the rules on that because I made a dog.
Well, the weapon pods are 594 points.
Jeez. I got C3B308. Wow.
That's one ability. That's one advantage. Is
Yeah,
on
He appears to be
nearly
able to spit
600
up smaller
points.
robots.
he has
Yeah, it's
28
wild.
strength.
But even then, looking at this character sheet tells me nothing about the character aside from like what it can kind of do.
Yeah.
Right? They have to literally have 2 pages of here's paragraph upon paragraph of what this character is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's not even part of the character sheet. So
Yeah, the sheet itself has there's nothing that conveys flavor, really.
No.
I mean, the best you're going to get is generally in at least in the quirks section for most people. You're like, oh, that's the quirks are the thing where you're like, I like to do whatever, or I've got a
Yeah.
little thing that's my personality. And that's about the only part of a character sheet where you're like, oh, look, personality.
So how does GURPS character creation, how does this process stack up to other systems?
It's terrible.
Well, I mean, compared to other point buy systems, especially, right? Because we did L5R before. That's well, at least we tried 4th edition at one point, and it was point buy, and it wasn't nearly this terrible.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. This is mostly terrible because it's mathy and because it's so modular.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
ultimately, not to go to, I didn't care for this especially, but not to go to bat for it too much. You can make the character you get out when you're done, once you put in the way too much time and effort, is what you want. It
That's
is the
the
character
Right.
you were
You
thinking
did
of.
something. You picked a very specific concept and you made a character that is very, very true to that concept.
Oddly
I
enough,
think-
we all did that.
And
Yeah.
I think the problem here is entirely with the fact that they smashed it all into one book. I think if each of us had been able to be like, like a supplement and
Mhm.
just take that and make, because I think that's why something like L5R was easier, even though it was still a point buy. It's, like you're doing it within a very confined space. The number of skills are not 275.
I mean,
Yeah.
analysis paralysis is a real thing
Yes,
that
it is.
happens
Yes.
in RPG. And when you're making a character, if you're like, I have 20 options, you're like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to pick one of these 20. But if you have 275 options, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to weigh one against another.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just
Well, that's why I
gets
said, like, I
overwhelming.
never have I been more sure of like some of these disadvantages on my character sheet than doing this. Like
Mhm.
indecisive, like enumerate.
Right.
This was not a good game for me.
it's fair.
I am not the target audience.
No, I did enjoy the possibilities of character creation in this game. I didn't really enjoy the process itself, but I enjoy like if you can spend 20 hours ahead of time and like say, let's limit our choices to this stuff. Let's say we're going to be playing in this sort of setting. And like, even if we give a point range to the whole group, like stick it between 300 and 600 points. You know, we want to be at least a little competent and we want to not go super above that. We can still create something variable, right?
Yeah, if we had an idea even of like what we were doing for a campaign, like what game was this? Obviously, we settled on
whatever.
Probably.
Let's throw it together.
You know, so like I think that kind of thing would help. I really think that a lot of the difficulty of this is one, it's my first time, and two, it's that analysis paralysis of like you have given me too many options. And I'm not familiar enough with this system to know which choices I am making are important and which ones are not.
Mm-hmm. And without the whole like, oh, this is the campaign we're doing, this is the setting, this is the tone. You're like, I'm not sure should I be taking karate instead of brawling? Should I be taking wrestling or judo? Like there are so many overlap skills that you also end up going like, I need guidance to make a character in this, because if I don't have guidance, then I'm just gonna end up being like, there's no way for me to tell if this is good or not.
Right yeah, and that impacts some of that decision making time too, of going back and forth and being like, okay, well, where are these different? How are they different? Is it better to pick one or the other? Or, you know, it's
also, none of us made wizards. We didn't even touch the entire spellcast.
I was not going to go there.
I stayed away from that. I stayed away from it.
No.
I was like, I'm already taking up too much time. I cannot start delving into what this magic system is all about.
Yeah, I was not even. That's why I did not want to make a necromancer, because I wasn't going to touch that.
Yeah. You had the points, but that's okay. maybe in a bonus if we want to really like hurt ourselves for some reason.
Yeah. We could.
And I hope you guys do.
It was bumpy. I think if we played it more, it wouldn't be, because that's the thing that comes up all the time, is us being like, well, it was really hard, but how much of that is newness? And I think in this instance, a lot of it was just unfamiliarity. But I do think that it kind of lives up to that. You can do anything. Now, does it mean when we sit down to play a game that it does any of it well? I don't know. You know, to me, this seems like the most frustrating game to try and play just based on this experience right now. But I mean, with the characters that the four of us have made, we've seen the depth and breadth of what you can make. And it really does. It is universal.
It does feel like character creation and to an extension, setting creation is the hardest part of experiencing GURPS.
Whoever the person running the game is, if you're playing a game of GURPS, has to do so much more work, because there just aren't the tools to facilitate that like other games have. And I mean, the fact that any enemy that you would make, I was going to say, you mentioned that there's no bestiary here. No, you just have to go, all right, if I make a demon dog and it wants to fight you, I have to stat out all the points and advantages and disadvantages and everything to that dog.
That's a very Palladium approach to it as well.
You have to create a full character every time you make something. So if you're the one running it, you've got to get real good at this. And that, you know, as a player, you run through this once, and if you've got good guidance from a GM and they've got like, here are the skills to look at, here are the advantages to look at, this is what we should be trying to make. Amazing. You make your character, and then you don't have to deal with that system ever again. And that's fine if you're a player. But as a person running the game, you're like, no, you live in that system.
Oh,
That's all you do.
Yeah, this is very much that old school philosophy of like, I am the GM. This is you show up to what I have created. And this one, not necessarily like even to the GM's advantage, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do an on the fly, like, oh, a random encounter happens and you meet a guy. You're like, I don't want to stat up a guy. It takes 3 hours to stat up a guy.
So do you think that like sort of reinforces that dynamic then, that GM player dynamic of like power structure? Because at that point, the GM has not even no incentive, but like a disincentive actively to like go along with what the players are doing and to allow for any improv.
Yeah, because if I'm like running a game and I've like statted a villain and my players go, no, we want to go over here. I'm like, no, I statted a villain and you'll fight that guy because it took me forever to do it.
Well, not only that, but because you can't easily change course. Like the ability to course correct here is 0.
I mean, the thing you got to take into account when you're thinking about that is that this is from an era when game stores were much more successful than they are right now. And a big book of monsters sold particularly well for things. You could probably buy a GURPS bestiary.
Yeah.
Or GURPS big book of wizards to fight. And people would want that. So, I mean, nowadays, of course, you just go, okay, what's the absolute minimum amount of work I can do to generate a villain?
The answer is go on Google and see if someone did it for me.
I wasn't even talking about GURPS. I meant for role-playing game design. You're like, can I get a villain down to 3 numbers?
Yeah.
Just 3 numbers.
Some way he interacts and something he's got for powers, and we're done. This guy's ready to go.
Yeah.
Slap him and send him out.
But if you're the kind of person who's way into this game, like enough to run it, then you're probably the kind of person that's also way into buying a lot of these supplements. So it might have definitely met its intended purpose.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. And seeing how Munchkin has gone, that probably was its intended purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
In summation, it's a land of contrasts.
It is. Yeah. I do want to know how character creation relates to gameplay, though, because we didn't really get to talk about that. And this book doesn't cover that. So now that we've like made these characters, how does gameplay really work with this? Like, is it, I'm just going to show up and then we're going to do like 85 rounds of combat and then like.
Well, I mean, you've got, like I said, when you make a character in this, you're done with this system and you pretty much are just like, I'm going to put 3 6-sided dice in front of me. And occasionally I'll be asked to roll those and then check it against a number. And at least in part for, if I'm going to go to bat for GURPS, for the whole character creation reinforcing something, if you spend a lot of points on something, then that's very important to your character. That's a core concept.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, when we're playing the game, I'm going to want to do that because that's the thing I paid 100 points for.
Right.
So
I'm going to make sure that I use this skill whenever possible.
Yeah, that's my whole deal. So obviously I do that. So at least that way in the point buy system, it does somewhat reinforce or cause a player to be like, oh, I should be, focusing on this because I spent more points on that.
Right.
It does prepare you to jump back and forth all the time through the book, looking at what your stuff actually does.
Yes. Yes, it does prepare you for the process of pagination and
That's fair.
Maybe putting little flaggy bookmarks on there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does sound like overall the game itself is much simpler to play than to create the characters for.
Oh, for sure. And even on a rules level outside of this book, when you're looking at like, there's a whole other 300 something page book with all of the rules for gameplay. But again, so much of that is on whoever's running the game.
Yeah.
Because if you need to know like, oh, but how does, 0G for a spaceship work when you're trying to accelerate to this degree? And you're like, I don't need to know that. I'm going to say I roll piloting, and then you're going to tell me
what happens. And then you do the math and tell me what this number means.
Yeah, you don't have to know anything as the player. You're like, I got a character sheet and I got 3 dice, so this is your problem now.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Although that's the sort of thing I personally don't care for at all.
No. Mm-mm. No, we real hard
like
against that.
Responsibility shared.
There you go.
Yep. No, I just like to show up and a game happens. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like a game to happen at me, please.
Yeah, this is that kind of old school module level, like you're going to go on a carnival ride of an RPG where the GM's like, you're in a town, a goblin attacks, please attack this goblin back. And you're like, cool, I don't have agency. I'm here for the ride.
Yep.
Amazing.
I'm in charge of how many stabs it takes to kill him, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you think is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system? And what's your favorite part? If there is a favorite
the biggest
part.
flaw would probably be an overabundance of repeated or useless choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much so that you'll find yourself trying to read through it, just going, I don't care, and skipping like 10 pages at a time.
That's right. At one point, Ryan was like, I think I skipped a column of these skills, and we were like, don't look back. You don't need it.
You don't need
Nothing in that column matters.
Don't worry about it. I'm sure it'll come up again.
Yeah.
So it needs an editor.
I would say that. It definitely needs a strong edit. And it more than even like the 3rd or 2nd editions of this game did, because they just crammed stuff in here with no regard for whether or not there was already that stuff in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one thing when you're like, oh, we put out all of these supplements and we want to take, for ease of the player, take those supplements and put all that stuff in the main book. And at first you think, oh, that's very nice. That means I don't have to buy 7 supplements because those 7 are all in this book. But no one went and edited down like, okay, but what of these books doesn't need to go in there?
Right, but nobody was like, there's shooting in the Western book and there's shooting in the space book, and they don't both need to be in there.
Yes, the shoot 6-shooter and shoot ray gun don't need to be separate skills.
You don't need thrown weapon and bolas, thrown.
Right.
So I think that, is a flaw. I mean, it's also... honestly, the good part of this of being like, yeah, you can make anything and we threw it all in the same book is also the flaw of it, of you threw everything in this book and why did you do that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all flavor at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So, and in terms of things I do like I said before, I got to say it, the granularity of it does mean that if you have a character concept in mind, you're going to get that character. You can make it.
Yeah.
Assuming the GM gives you the points.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is we all had, hey, make whatever you want and see how many points it happens to have.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was like, I'm going to make the hobo, and it's like, cool, you have 120 points. You go, oh, no, I don't.
I mean, I would have made like a younger hobo. It would have been just lower his stats and I would have made it happen. I feel like I still could have done it. He didn't need an IQ of 18 or whatever I ended up with. But yeah, I mean, ultimately I was still able to replicate, using the tools this game had in it. I was able to correctly make a dog who couldn't talk, walked on 4 legs, used body language to express ideas, definitely had all the things you would really need for a dog to be, down to colorblind being correct. Well, sort of. Ish. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to say is that because of the sheer amount of granular tools, you will get the character you have in mind, provided you have the points to spend. There you go.
Yeah.
No, I think that the question too, when you get into that like point spend and stuff, is what level of granularity is required, and like how specific and nitpicky is your GM going to be? Because like you building that dog, like you pulled in everything that it could have been, all of those advantages and disadvantages and like every possible skill and things like that. And so do you get to a point where you say, okay, I can like streamline this. But then, in play, is your GM going to be like, no, you don't actually have that skill though, even though like we all know the concept that you're going for, you didn't buy that particular skill. So,
right.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll again say this is one of the things, at least somewhat in the favor of this, is if you're going to have 275 skills, the fact that all of them have a default that outside of a few things where it's like, no, you can't default to surgery without training.
Yeah.
Then at least they're like, yeah, sure, you can try this.
Yeah.
You
Here's how you would do
won't.
it. You're not going to be as good, but here's how you would attempt that.
Yeah.
And they do have a thing we never talked about, but there is like skills that help other skills. So if you're like, oh, I've got, two skills that are related, I can try and be like, oh, if I roll under this skill, can I get a bonus to doing this other skill? So like, oh, I'm going to try and use body language to help amplify my public speaking so that when I'm talking, it's not just how I talk, it's how I look when I talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then can I get a bonus off of that? And that's a thing you can do.
That's awesome. All right.
Oh boy. Okay. It's time for our fanfic. So we have to talk about how we would make sense of any of this. How would this ever happen in one game? What would the campaign be where these people show up?
So
Okay.
I have a pitch.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
please.
listen to it. I mean, the hobo's easy, so
So trying to get all of them in the same area and not just have it be like, oh, everyone comes from different dimensions to one place.
sure.
Right.
All right. Baseline, we start Magical Girl World.
Yep.
Okay.
You were talking while making your character about like, oh, why don't I have a magical animal companion? Boom, the hobo.
The hobo's no one's companion.
The hobo is everyone's companion.
Yeah, everyone's, not one specific person's. No one companion.
Yes, but the hobo would also be, oh, and I leave. The episode's over and
That's
I'm gone.
fine. Yeah, as long as we're only kidding, I'm the magical
This
girl's
is a
companion for
one-shot.
22 minutes because of a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
You show up, the magical girl has a problem, and the hobo's like, I'm going to help out.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
as I mentioned before, Amelia gets isekai'd.
Okay.
You show up here. I am a monster sent by the villains to stop you,
Yeah.
but then through the power of love and friendship, I join your side.
That makes sense, honestly.
I do like that.
The thing is, you also have the one way to really stop me, which is attacking my fatigue points rather than my hit points. Because my hit points I'll never go down on. But if you're like, no, I drain away all your fatigue, then you could knock me out. And I'd be like, wow, you're the first person to do that. And also, you didn't just murder me while I was unconscious. That's amazing. You're amazing. Let's be friends.
But you
Yeah.
can't
I know how to stop
communicate
you,
all
too.
of that because you can only speak in grunts.
Yeah, I'm going to, of course, show back up and go,
But, you know,
But it'll
then,
seem friendlier this time.
yeah, you'll go blah, and then I'll be like, no, it's okay. And then your tentacles, like, instead of flailing wildly, they like settle down. And then I put my forehead against like one of your eye stalks or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand how to beat you. I wouldn't say anything. Camera push in on me. I would listen.
Yep.
That's all he really wanted all along anyway, was somebody to just listen.
So,
I'm gonna
so
understand you.
am I like trying to protect you, Amelia, in this situation? You get isekai'd into this middle of this battle against me and this Marlboro or Marlboro.
Malboro.
Malboro.
Mal as in bad and Boro as in the cigarettes.
Yeah, Mal isn't bad, and Boro is in the districts of New York.
Yeah.
Malboro as in let me borrow a cigarette.
I mean, yeah, obviously, all I'm bringing to the table is a pile of mental illnesses and a knowledge of current affairs. So,
But you're also a regular human, which means the hobo is much more likely to want to protect you.
That is true.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so really, like, I think that's, yeah, what I bring to the table is relatability for our audience.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That works.
the POV character.
Right.
Yeah, you need one.
Yeah. Mhm.
Constantly trying to keep you out of danger.
Someone's got to be
Because-
there to inherently understand why the hobo leaves at the end. Well, it has to be like, there he goes. I guess he just can't be tamed.
He's got to move on.
Do we follow the hobo around then?
No.
One
ho-
shot.
Yeah, one shot. The hobo always leaves at the end of the
it's a one
adventure.
shot.
No one goes with.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
This is not a long campaign then.
No.
No, we spent longer making characters than this
Yes.
game will take.
Okay, that's fine. I guess Amelia's just stuck in anime world
I learned to like it here.
That's fine. You can Gwenpool your way through it.
Or you just get eaten by me at the end.
Yeah.
I think we all learned a little something today about friendship.
What do you know? I guess he has to be moving on.
Bad Marlboro. Bad. We don't eat our friends.
Do.
I almost took some healing abilities for other people aside from just myself. Chose against it. So that's unfortunate. I'm sorry,
I considered
Amelia.
it too, but ultimately rejected it because he's just a dog.
Yeah.
But I did consider it.
Let's get into our last segment here. We can do it. I believe in us.
I know.
Let's talk about character advancement and take it up a level.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So, how does character advancement work in this game? How do characters level up? Because I noticed, unlike Heroes Unlimited, I did not have to keep track of where I bought my skills from and what percentage they go up at, depending on where I get them from.
Does that sound good? Does that sound promising to you? Like a really nice thing about the game? You just get more points and have to go back into the builder.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Your advancement is more character points, which is why if you were like, oh, I have a character and our build limit was 400 points and I spent 380. All right, you have 20 points. And then at some point you can spend those points to raise something else.
It's just more character creation.
Okay.
Amazing. So it never ends.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not the worst answer.
No,
it's not.
Like it's a couple points a session is the way it was described. There was even a little section in there about how like if you write an interesting backstory for your character, you should probably expect an additional 5 to 10 extra points to spend.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
No, I can handle that. And having done
so
it
he
once,
uses
I
a
feel
different
like
engine. It's not as bad as like your, White Wolf, like Exalted type stuff where there's a different point value for everything between character creation and not character creation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's not narrative based though still, right? It's like, okay, now I got 30 points. Now I'm going to buy this extra superpower.
You can buy whatever you want.
Yes, you can.
There is also narrative point purchasing essentially. So like if the DM is like, hey, you get struck by radiation or struck by a smooth criminal or whatever it is, and you gain, let's just say, now you have the ability to shoot a laser beam or something, or you can fly. You figure out how many points that costs. If you've got the points already, then you just spend those and now you have it. If not, you go into point debt and pay off that, or you get a disadvantage about it. So it's like, you get flight, but you can only fly like 10 feet off the ground. So
you don't know how to use it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways the book talks about like, if, something happens and you get a thing, or something bad happens and they're like, you got, someone cut your eye out and now you have the one eye disadvantage, then you should be able to get compensated for that.
I did notice that there's some like disadvantages and stuff that you can buy off too. That you can like, you can say that like I no longer like this no longer fits my character.
Yeah, so if you have the bad temper one and you're like, I spend enough time learning how to control my temper, I can spend however many points I got for bad temper, spend those, get rid of it, and say, okay, now I don't have that anymore.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do think that it does, like, granting somebody a pile of points isn't necessarily narrative, but I do think it supports using those narratively in a way that maybe some other games don't always.
So you could say you've got 400 points left over, Amelia. What if in this new world, I really want to learn necromancy now, so I'm going to start learning necromancy.
Yeah.
And after a while, the GM says, well, you did it. You found the book. You learned it. You know how to read it now. And now you can spend 100 points.
I am a magical being.
That you have to give yourself this necromancy skill or whatever it is.
Buy several levels of magery, and now you're able to do magic.
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind of cool. I do like that. That's interesting that there's something I liked about this game.
That's weird.
Once I got past understanding the math, like I did not hate this. I really didn't.
I didn't hate it either.
We talk crap about it, but
no,
I mostly talk crap about it in that way that I say that, like, I don't like sort of generic systems because I don't think that they do what like you can't run everything in a generic system. It's like the same as I say, like you can't run everything in 5e because the mechanics of that game don't support the story you're trying to tell. That's not to say that like 5e is a terrible game. GURPS is a terrible game. It's just that it's not the like brilliant answer that people think it should be when they suggest it on Reddit, you know?
Yeah.
That's really my big problem with it. But yeah, once I got past the part where I had to do math, I was like, this is okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Like I was saying before, the thing that I dislike about this edition is the lazy copy pasting of other supplements into here. That's the biggest failure I'm seeing.
Yeah, it definitely could be more user friendly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it's been a long series, Jef and Jon.
Thank you.
We appreciate it so much. Sticking around and covering GURPS with us.
Which we have to go make more episodes about. Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, I mean, our GURPS episode will be out before your GURPS episode.
That's
How
probably true.
How dare you?
Get dunked on.
We have a really quick turnaround time.
Oh, there you go.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Can you remind everyone where we can find you online? All that other fun stuff.
Go ahead, find us. Again, we are System Mastery on basically anything. So systemmasterypodcast.com.
Yeah.
You can go to patreon.com/System Mastery and support us. You can find us on all of the socials at System Mastery. And we've got a ton of stuff. We put out just like 4 shows a week. We're always
we've
doing
made well
stuff.
over 1,000 episodes of stuff. So
wow.
So we're easy. If you're looking for something, we almost definitely have something you like. And unless you just don't like us, in which case, read our books, because then it's just our writing and not our awful talking.
Well, thank you again to both of you for sitting down with us, and thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. Ryan.
Yeah.
After 5 long years of making this podcast, we did GURPS.
We did GURPS.
We are alive to tell the tale.
We are. Because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, and I know we talked about this a little bit in our closer last time, and certainly in the episode, that a lot of the frustration was definitely born out of the unfamiliarity with it. That I think that, if I went through this a couple more times, I'd be pretty good.
I can see why people like it.
Yeah, it has a lot going for it. It really does. And, it really does depend, like anything else, on what you want out of a game. That the mechanics are going to influence the kind of game you have, and not everything is for everyone. And I think we really got to see what this game can do. And it does so much. It does so much.
It really does.
And it is very cool to see a game that does that. So yeah, I mean, I have always joked about GURPS. I don't want to say I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, because I really did think once we got into it, it would be like, oh, I can see why people like this, even if it's not for me. And,
exactly.
I don't know that it's for me, but it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot.
See that there's definitely a place for a crunchy game like this, especially crunchy character creation like this, because if I had the time, you would
love this.
This is like min-maxer's heaven.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Modifications for every little tiny thing, and
for somebody that loves all of those little details and finding all of the ways that you can combine, it definitely tickles that min-max puzzle part of your brain. I don't like it because it's too much math to do that, but I like that concept, of being able to build this perfect thing in, so yeah, it was really cool to see. And it always is fun to look at some of these quote unquote older games too, and just see what things they influenced going forward. It's just a really fun game design review exercise too. So I hope everyone else enjoyed it. We had a good time. We had a good time, and I'm glad we got to do this one. It was important.
Absolutely. I also really loved how nobody was able to predict what John's character was until this episode.
It was, yeah.
There's quite a few people that guessed Jeff's character right off the bat.
Yep.
Like in the middle of this, the last episode. So that was really interesting. But like John's character, like yeah, it was. It was certainly something. Shows the range and the breadth of.
We really did
system.
Show that. Everything from the littlest hobo and a magical girl, and just
just normal person.
Like a mental patient. So, no, it was great. It was great. I'm really glad that we got a chance to show it off.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you go for the day, we do have some calls to action. This is another special Patreon Drive Update Edition.
We do have a lot of things to say, so stick with us. I promise that it's cool and interesting. Hopefully, it is to us. First up, we hit our $100 goal, and we've been brainstorming since then what we can do to make this even more exciting for folks. So for the first big announcement, while we're still really hoping to hit that $200 a month goal, we were like, yeah, but like, what if more stuff? What if more?
What if more stuff?
So I thought, let's add a $150 goal in the middle, just to like keep it fun along the way.
Yeah.
If we hit 150 pledges by the end of May, we will send out 3 custom stickers to every single patron that has been a patron prior to June 1st of 2023, as long as we have your address. That includes all of the people on the $1 tier. So, we said dice for everybody $5 and up, but we were like, $1 people, we love you too.
Yeah.
And
we'll send you some stickers. So in addition to that, though, if you were like, dice and stickers, I don't know if it's worth it. In addition to that, if we hit that $150 goal, I will run a patron-only session of my new favorite obsession game, Arium Create. It's so good.
And that will be open to all patrons. We'll, put out a poll and figure out times and all that kind of stuff. Arium Create is a fantastic collaborative world-building game, kind of based on categorizing the parts of world building and starting big and then working down to smaller and smaller things. So you start with like big, broad themes all the way down to these are items that we want to show up in our world. And then there's like a voting system to pick what things to move forward with each round. It's very snappy. It's quick, easy to understand, so much fun.
Absolutely.
Obviously, like generally pretty rules light. I am running it. So, Amelia doesn't run games. So I really hope that I can get a chance to share this game with everybody because I love it so much. From the moment I picked it up, I've loved this game. So I really hope I can share it with everybody if we hit that $150 goal. Please.
Absolutely. Please, because I'll be joining that game too. And I have never played before and I really, really want to.
Yeah, I do too. And it's unfortunately one that as much as I love is not very good for an audio medium. It just isn't. So it's not one that we're really able to cover on the show or make an actual play of or record or anything. So this is really your best chance to see it in action.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of stickers.
Yes, we did talk about that.
Yeah. So starting today, the day this episode releases, we are going to start a Sticker of the Month Club as part of our $10 campaign tier.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is going to be a custom design by our very own Amelia Antrim. You may have heard of her.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
That will be sent out every single month to all of our patrons at $10 or higher.
Oh my goodness.
That we have your address for. So we are still ironing out details for where we will be printing the stickers, but we think this will be a fun club to join because you will not be able to get these stickers anywhere else.
Nope.
So if you've thought about that tier, but maybe doing an additional social activity every month isn't what you're looking for, have we got a deal for you?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting because I know that at $10 level we have a monthly Zoom call, but I know not everybody's like super social and wants to hop on a call with people they don't know every month too. And I love stickers, so yeah. I'm excited. Absolutely. And I hope other people will be too. In addition to all of these stickers,
so many stickers.
We have our custom dice in.
We have our dice.
They came in. Ryan has a box full of dice that are just waiting for a good home. We cannot wait to send them out to everyone at the $5 and up level. Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. Plus, Ryan has rolled a couple and had very good rolls. So yeah. Chessex did a phenomenal job on the quality. You're guaranteed to get a set if you're pledging at least $5 to our Patreon, and we have your address. Again, if you're not comfortable giving out your address through Patreon, please feel free to DM either of us on Discord, on Twitter. You can DM the show directly on Twitter. You can email us at charactercreationcast@gmail.com. Reach out in any of those ways, and we can ensure that your address is directly with us and not necessarily on Patreon too, if that's a concern for you. We will ship them internationally too. We are cool with that. So yeah, if you are interested in physical rewards, please make sure that we have your address somehow, some way, so we can send you the cool things.
Yes. There are so many perks for joining up on our Patreon. It really feels like we're giving too much away at times, but I think it's a steal. Head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and see what sorts of things we will be offering. You can join the ranks of all of our amazing patrons, like we had just earlier today, the day that we're recording this call to action. We really want to welcome and thank Garden GM for joining us this month. It really means a lot to both of us that you're here.
Thank you so much for joining this list of very generous folks. And we're going to thank all of them right now. Starting with Lieutenant, thank you so much.
We appreciate your support, DJG, aka Tigranosaurus. Thank you.
Eric Bonts, thank you for your support.
Shadim Cabal, we are so grateful to you.
Daryl Holiday II, we are so grateful to you too.
The shyest barbarian you shouldn't have, but we are so very glad you did.
Benjamin Sweeney, you rock. Thank you so much.
Lorcan McGinnis, thank you so much.
We appreciate your support, Rob Fletcher. Thank you.
Kevin Brown, thanks for believing in us.
Tentacle Duck, many thanks to you.
John Adamus, we are so grateful to you.
A3 Sketchpad, you're the best.
Cole McCallum, thanks for supporting our dreams.
Thanks, Carlos Salazar. We're so glad to have you backing us.
Thank you to Eric S.
Ross Kingston, we are so grateful to you.
Ian Potmeyer, thank you so much.
Grace Bergeron, thank you for believing in us.
Sorry Goth, thanks for helping us make this show.
Thank you, Liam G. Your support brings us so much joy.
Brian Colm, many thanks to you. And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support means so much to us and will help us make this show even better the more support that we end up getting. Again, join us at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and find out about all the cool stuff we have going on and help us reach that next goal.
Another fantastic way to support us is by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or Facebook. It's another way to get your name on the show too. Okay, sorry. What did you say?
I think it's Joshua Sedai. It's a tough one.
Okay. It's another way to get your name on the show, like Joshua Sedai. Hopefully we did that right.
I wonder if that's a Wheel of Time reference. Let us know.
Okay, let Ryan know if it's a Wheel of Time reference. From the United States of America on iTunes, who left a review saying, "Safety episode, 5 stars. Thank you so much for this episode. I'm sure a lot of us have experiences that have been suboptimal, and we did not have a mechanism for putting a halt to it. And as an older player, I remember a time when trying to express that would have been anathema. I'm so glad it's not anymore. We all have the right to feel safe, and no one has a past to make us feel unsafe if we don't agree to them doing so. I would like to point out another great effect of us learning where the lines are and that it's okay for us to change how an interaction is going. And if we learn to be confident using those skills in an environment with friends, it's great practice for other conversations in life. I would have loved to have access to things like an X card as a young gamer to show me it's okay and right to stop some conversations in games and real life. I had to learn that bravery on my own, and it was a lot harder without the tools. Another thing I'd like to yes and about this episode is sometimes we say X, and then it turns out that one or all of the other participants were uncomfortable too. Humans are subject to peer pressure and may join into interactions in ways they wouldn't, in ways they don't even like, because those around them are doing it. Sometimes whole groups can descend into behavior none of them want to be involved in, but they don't want to stand up and say, how about no? This isn't a judgment. We all get carried away sometimes. RPGs can be an emotional experience. So many of us have grown up told not to say no, and maybe other people in your group are struggling with the same ick that you are, but are also nervous to say no. Taking a minute to find the group's bearings never hurt anyone. So thank you guys for covering this important topic. You're breaking ground with the first Guide for Players podcast, and you are breaking the right ground. That was so nice.
I love this review.
That was
so
such
much.
a good, oh my goodness.
Oh
my goodness.
know.
Like, I really love our safety and our session 0 episodes. Like, they're some of my favorites that we've ever done.
Yes.
So this means a lot. I'm so glad that it's been helpful to you. I also am a big proponent of the fact that like the things that we learn at the table in RPGs are great for real life too. I'm glad that that's the feeling that you're having. I'm glad that you came away with that. And like, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This was so nice. Thank you.
It's so nice. And it came at such an interesting time because, speaking of
that review,
that review in that episode, we are finally starting Character Evolution Cast up again.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Ryan, I'm so excited about this. Excited. We took a break when the pandemic started because life was too much and we've kept meaning to get back to it. And then I've had so many health problems that committing more time has not been an option.
I know.
Oh,
we've been dying to get back to it and trying to figure out how to make it happen. And we think we finally got it figured out. So you can look forward to it, to even more episodes in your feed every single month, starting at the end of this month in May.
Yes. And I think for people that loved the safety episode and loved the session 0 episode, I think this next one that we have cooking is going to be a really exciting one. So
yeah, we're kicking it off with a really great topic. We hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think. Leave a review if you love the episode. And my goodness, I can't wait to get this series going again.
Yes, I'm very excited. We will have another bonus episode from our Undying Bonds backlog in our regular feed next week. And then after that, we will, on the 29th, is that? Yeah, that's the Monday.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of Mondays this month. So then on the 29th, we'll put out that Evolution Cast episode. So you can look forward to that. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, relax your shoulders, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Antrim, and I can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning, or on my other podcast, Garbage of the Five Rings. Our other host, Ryan Bolter, can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast it originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs. and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by the absolutely fantastic Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game system used in today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much, much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.